team like Kyrie and KD, or the Lake Show with King James and AD. Wish I could match him up with the bad boys from the 80s, but no black and white, I need that in HD. HenDawgz.
Yo, what's good, y'all? It's your boy HenDawg, and we back to it. You know how we do it. The Chicago Bulls and Detroit Pistons rivalry. Let's get into it, man. Y'all see me. Y'all see I had to throw my Detroit bad boy shirt on. You know. As a person that grew up 40 minutes from Detroit. I'm from Toledo, Ohio, which is like literally 5 minutes from Michigan, around the border of Ohio and Michigan, and pretty close to Detroit, like 40 minutes. It's only right that, you know, I represent for my Detroit people, man. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and like this video if you like this video. And go ahead and write something in the comments. Let me know how you feel about this rivalry. And I never grew up a Pistons fan. Like, I think if I would have grew up in this era, I probably would have been. But I think my dad was a big time Pistons fan. It's funny because growing up, I never really had Jordans. I never seen my dad wearing Jordans. I never really thought too much of it. But now the more research I do on the basketball that was going on in the 80s and the 90s, I see why my dad, you know, didn't really care too much about Mike if you're a Pistons guy. But I think that's what's going to be so exciting about going through this this rivalry is how good they were. Like, I think the Detroit Pistons kind of get a bad, like, you know, a bad rap on the sense of like they were just this tough and dirty team, but they was actually good. They were really, really good, and I hope that this documentary or whatever this is, this video, goes like really in depth with the whole rivalry and how good the Pistons was. I think that the rivalry was like between like 1988 to 92. I want to say there's actually another video out there that's an hour and a half long. Obviously, I would break that up into probably like 2 or 3 videos, but let me know if I want me to react to that one. This one will be about 13 minutes long, so let's get into this one. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see how these Pistons was dealing with Michael Jordan. Like, early on, you know, it was all Detroit. And then later on, man, Jordan just took over. But let's get into this video. We got the Chicago Bulls and the Detroit Pistons rivalry. Let's get it. The NBA elevation. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
The Bulls and Pistons hated each other. They hated each other. And they should have. I mean, they pounded each other.
And Rocket and Jordan going at each other.
Each and every game that we played against Detroit, we considered a war.
We had flexed our muscles. They were flexing their muscles. And we wanted to remain kings, and they wanted what we had. So they were the ultimate game.
Between 1987 and 1991, these two teams would play each other 47 times.
Damn.
4 times in the playoffs. Each game, a battle for both supremacy on the court and a place in NBA history. But ironically, the seeds of this rivalry were sown in Boston.
The Celtics were the old veteran team that nothing bothered them and that annoyed the Pistons because the Pistons were trying as hard as they could and nothing they did worked.
Oh my! What a mistake by Detroit!
Then they jumped over the Celtics. They became the bad boys, and then along comes this team out of the Midwest.
Before we start talking about Chicago, let's talk about the Boston and Detroit rivalry a little bit, because that was a rivalry too. Let me know if y'all want me to react to that. Like, I done heard some really good stories about the whole, I just did the Bill Laimbeer, Larry Bird stuff, so I know that was good too. But what allowed the Detroit Pistons to get over the Boston Celtics? Was it just Larry Bird getting old and back, you know, messing up on him? Like, what was the reason why Detroit was finally able to get over Boston? Let me know in the comments.
Chicago, and the Pistons treated the Bulls the same way the Celtics had treated them. These young kids don't have what it takes.
We knew they were out there. We knew they were up and coming. But at that point in time, we just dismissed it because we knew they couldn't beat us.
While Detroit may not have considered Chicago a legitimate threat in the Eastern Conference, they still had reasons not to like them.
The game that the Pistons played was rugged, it was tough, it was gritty, and then here comes Michael. Michael is art.
Here's Jordan down the middle.
like seeing this young punk come in with all this great skill. And if you came down the middle, you're just going to get killed.
Michael on the move against Vinnie Johnson.
Jordan rules.
Michael Jordan goes down hard.
For Piston captain and Chicago native Isaiah Thomas, beating Jordan and the Bulls was personal.
Isaiah was a great star in Chicago. He was the athlete Chicagoans were maybe most proud of. And Michael walks in, just takes Chicago away from him.
You know, you come home.
Y'all think that got a lot to do with why Isaiah is still in 2023? This is in the 80s. And in 2023, Isaiah is still talking negatively about Michael Jordan. Y'all think that got a little to do with it? I feel like it does. The fact that your hometown, Chicago, Illinois, like, they worship you. You are the best thing ever. And then out of nowhere, some guy from North Carolina come in, and now they don't even know you no more. They don't even care about you no more. He done came and took your city over. So y'all think that had a little to do with it? I think it do. I think it do.
And your hometown fans despise you. That must have been tough to take.
It affected me because as a kid, I always wanted to play for the Chicago Bulls. But I loved it. I mean, I enjoyed it because we were always beating those guys.
Detroit realized
Yeah,
Chicago
always
had a more athletic team than they did, so they induced the younger, more fragile Bulls into a physical and psychological battle that would shape the rivalry for seasons to come.
Oh.
Nice play. Oh, and
Lambeer, man.
Did not like it.
It was almost like they bullied us and pushed us around. We always kind of felt like we had to challenge them and stand up to that, and that wasn't really who we were.
It was fun to get them off their game. That's how we got off. We were a very cerebral team. We loved to play the mental games.
Rodman would punch Pippen in the face or to hit him in the chest. He would so upset him, so infuriate him. Pippen couldn't play in these games.
They're so concerned about showing that they're men and they're physical and they're not going to back down. You know, they weren't really thinking about how we beat these guys.
Detroit and Chicago would meet for the...
Somebody gave me a good comparison to Joe Dumars. I had asked in one of the other videos, like, who would be his NBA comparison in today? And somebody said Drew Holiday. And I'm like, that's really good. Like, that I can see that. I can see that. So shout out to Drew Holiday and shout out to Joe Dumars.
First time in the playoffs in 1988. And the Pistons were determined to make sure the Bulls and the league's newly crowned MVP knew who ruled the Eastern Conference.
On the switch, Jordan, Robert, and the Pistons want to make Jordan pay.
Detroit's game may have lacked artistry, but it was effective, and they dismissed...
Bill Lambeer was shooting threes?
And the Pistons have now a return trip ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals.
The 1988 series, however, was merely a prelude of things to come. In 1989, Michael Jordan would lead the league in scoring for the third straight year, and he would lead Chicago on a remarkable run to their first Eastern Conference Finals.
The Bulls win! They win!
But waiting for Chicago were their old friends, who had a new twist in their plans.
The Bad Boys.
Jordan and the Bulls.
He's the focal point of everything they do, so let's just break down what they do, and then let's give them different looks. So Chuck says, yeah, let's make a set of rules just for this guy.
The set of rules came to be known as the Jordan Rules.
The Jordan
and
Rules.
And the Pistons considered them classified information.
Jordan Rule? The Jordan Rules. Is that something you guys made up? You know what? The Jordan Rules was just a whole lot of help.
A whole lot of help.
Jordan, over 4...
I don't know if that's true, but you right there that's watching, let me know if you got a better explanation than what they just gave us for what the Jordan Rules is. Like, I think everybody's got their own definition. I think, well, my definition of the Jordan Rules were, after, watching so many videos, is they just wouldn't let him get off the ground. Foul him before he jumped. And if he jumps up too late, still foul him. Like, just hit him. Basically, it's a little dirtiness in between that. Like, I'm sure telling Bill Lambeer that like, that's not a good thing to do. But Joe Dumars, I don't think was a dirty player. Who else they have on that team? I'm sure they have some other dirty players on that team. But yeah, let me know how you would define what the Jordan Rules was back in the day.
The rules were more than defensive schemes, however. They were part of a grander psychological plan.
They always played into that. Michael wanted to do it all. Michael tried to score it all and played it against him.
I mean, he was like a warrior that said, all right, they got 3 people, I'm still going to take the ball to them.
My ego was involved, because I don't want a team to seem like they could dominate me, but dominate us as a team.
All right, part 2.
The source, Power Player of the Week.
When Chicago and Detroit met in the 1989 Eastern Conference Finals, Jordan was determined that the Pistons and their Jordan rules could not stop him.
Well, nothing Bill Lambier could do on that one.
But it was Detroit's team defense and the Piston guards who imposed their will on the series.
Chopping like that.
Detroit's victory in 6 games would propel them to their first NBA title and rattle the confidence of the Bulls.
I remember in '89 when I was really frustrated about how this team was playing from Jordan rules to try to double and triple team me and make other players hurt them. And we knew what was happening, but yet we still didn't make them pay for that.
But Chicago was hoping that the experience of 1989 could help them the following season as they reached the Eastern Conference Finals, this time pushing Detroit to a decisive 7th game.
I feel like opportunity to get over this mountain, this hurdle that seemed to have been in the way for the last 3 years.
But Detroit had different ideas.
I thought it would be a cakewalk of a game. They just weren't strong enough mentally to compete at the level that we were competing at.
That's saying a whole lot to the Chicago Bulls, especially for someone like me, who I never really looked into the downs of Chicago Bulls. All I hear is the 6 finals, 6 MVPs, all the accomplishments of the Chicago Bulls. So like, to hear stuff like that, like Isaiah, like, yeah, they just wasn't mentally tough for us. Like, that says a lot. Like, that's very interesting. Like, I'm happy that I do these reaction videos, because I would have never knew. I would have never knew if I didn't watch these.
This was right. The Bulls weren't ready, and the Pistons blew them out.
Bulls can't buy a basket. The lead is 20.
Oh, he blew it.
It's one of those situations where at certain points you think, I don't know if we can beat this team.
Jordan could not beat the Pistons by himself.
Give me that.
Scottie Pippen was a non-factor, falling victim to a migraine headache.
A headache?
It was...
Who said that Michael Jordan needed Scottie Pippen, man? Who was saying that? Like, shout out to Scottie, he's a Hall of Fame player, but that boy was sitting out for a headache. There's a lot of stuff that I've been watching that shows me that I think it was the other way around. I think Scottie Pippen needed Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan didn't need Scottie Pippen.
It's just one of those things where you went, they don't have it. It's something here or here that they haven't figured it out yet.
It's over. The Pistons return to the NBA Finals for the...
I don't know why it's choppy like that, but
when we lost that
we're going to get through it.
I got on the bus, and I remember my father coming on the bus, and I'm back yelling and screaming, and he's doing all his best to try to calm me down. He said, it's only a game, you'll be given another opportunity. And I'm saying, well, we've been given so many opportunities, we're not going to get as many as you may think.
But Jordan and the Bulls would use their Game 7 defeat as motivation for the upcoming season.
In 1990-91, our whole focus was on Detroit. No one else made a difference.
And the team as a whole resolved to change their approach to Detroit in both body and mind.
This is
So that asshole mentality that Jordan had, I think it's a result of the Detroit Pistons. Like, I can't even be mad at Jordan no more. Like, he got players sitting out for headaches. He got the other teams, saying that the Chicago Bulls team is just not mentally tough for us. So, like, me hearing that and seeing that, I'm about to come in this next year. Like, anybody standing in my way of making me lose to this team, they gonna hear me. They gonna feel me. So I get it. I get the attitude that Jordan had, man. He was tired of losing to the Pistons.
a playground type team that played a very disciplined, organized game that was very, very physical. So my involvement as a coach was, you got to go away from pressure.
Phil very much tried to reinforce with us that if they hit us, you went away from it. There's something else available to you.
Jackson emphasized a team game and would pay off during the 1991 regular season, as the Bulls would finally finish with a better record. The ultimate test for the Bulls, however, would come once again in the conference finals.
We felt this is the chance.
This the year?
Them back down, we'll shake our hands. So it was a feeling. But then when the games came, it was unbelievable nervousness too.
The Bulls were anxious to prove that they had learned their lessons well.
Tired of losing.
Began dismantling Detroit from the outset.
First thought I thought after the first 2 games, I thought we're in trouble because he's figured out how to play now. Once he started using his teammates and still getting 30, it almost became impossible to beat him.
Jordan was not the only player who had figured out how to beat the Pistons, as a more determined and mature Pippen had emerged as well. Chicago would no longer be intimidated by Detroit, faded into confrontation.
A beautiful backdoor pass for Pippen, and he is walloped. He knew he was going to get hit.
They understood that no matter what we threw at them, whether we hit them hard, when we talked garbage to them in the paper or in front of them, none of our antics were finally working.
But we learned that it took a little bit more than just, desire. We had to use our minds. We had to outthink the other team.
And he comes up shooting. Oh, Johnny's back. Time is running out of this Detroit championship era. It's Chicago in a sweep.
They swept them?
The losses and the frustration, squeaking out and winning on their home court was about as good as it got.
Chicago's emphatic victory signaled the end of Detroit's run. But even in defeat, the Bad Boys managed to keep the rivalry alive by refusing to shake Chicago's hand as the game ended.
They left the bench over the 7 and 9/10 seconds remaining. The Pistons just left.
We were only doing what had been done to us. Their starting 5 just left. They just walked back into the building.
So y'all was followers.
Understand the fact that they could see us win on their court.
And we're not going out as demoralized. We're going out as we had just finished an accomplishment of a run that was unprecedented in the Piston history. We're very proud of it.
How do y'all feel about that? How do y'all feel about the whole let's start in 5? I don't know if it was just starting 5 or the whole team, but let's just leave and go to the locker room before the game even ends. We're not going to shake hands. We're not going to do none of that. How do y'all feel about that? Do y'all think that that's like disrespectful? That's poor sportsmanship? Or is it just whatever? Like, who really cares? Like, should the Chicago Bulls even give a fuck about that? Like, y'all won. Just take it for what it is. Y'all should honestly feel honored that these people don't want to look y'all in y'all face, that y'all just beat them and they just want to leave the game and not see y'all win on their court. So I would be more thrilled than anything. I wouldn't be mad at it, but let me know how y'all feel about that.
Gave us more energy. And I think from that time on, I think we won 24 straight against Detroit. And we're not
24 straight?
Anymore.
The Pistons would never challenge the Bulls again. But Detroit's 4-year battle with Chicago would prove invaluable in molding the Bulls into 6-time NBA champions.
The hurdles were very, very difficult. But I'm very happy that we went through those circumstances because it taught us to understand what winning was all about.
You know what they say, that familiarity breeds contempt? And that certainly was true of the Bulls-Pistons rivalry. That mutual dislike was one of the things that made those playoff series so intriguing. For those who watched Detroit against Chicago, or any of the other great rivalries, what will always stand out is the passion and the emotion they generated.
Facts.
In going head-to-head with everything on the line, the NBA's arch-rivals have always brought out the best in each other, and they provided the league's most unforgettable moments. I'm Charlie Steiner.
Great video. Very, very good video. I think they kind of like sped through each year, so I'm definitely going to react to that longer video about this rivalry, but I appreciate y'all for watching this one. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel if y'all haven't already. We on the way to 10K. And shout out to you right there. If you were still watching this video, I don't know how long we into this video, probably 13, 15, I don't even know how long, but if you're still watching right now, you are a real one. I appreciate you. Go ahead and like this video if you like this video, and go ahead and write something in the comments. Let me know if y'all think that this Pistons dynasty was one of the best ones of all time. Because I definitely believe that 89, 90, 91, that team right there might have been a little bit before that. This is one of the best teams, you know, I didn't really seen after doing all this research on the Boston Celtics, the Lakers, the Bulls, just all these different, you know, throwback teams. I feel like this Pistons team has been one of my favorites. And you see, that's why I got the shirt on. But I appreciate y'all like always. We out.